Morning, everybody. I call to order the May of 2025 meeting of the Academic Health Committee. Welcome to everybody who's here, watching us via live stream, those in the room and those via Zoom. I want to welcome our student representatives today too. Tewo Haremu, very nice to have you here as always. And Madison Hilliard will be joining us, I believe, via Zoom from the Crookston campus. So she's going to be joining us virtually. So first and foremost, we wanted to give an update on the strategic facilitation process for Minnesota healthcare. We're going to hear from Dr. Cunningham, Greg Goldman, and we're happy to have Lois Quam, the selected strategic facilitator from the Attorney General, joining us today too. Before we turn to facilitator Lois Quam, I think that President Cunningham, you and our Chief Financial Officer, Greg Goldman, wanted to provide some framing comments, so appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Chair Wheeler and members of the board. Thank you to our EVP Goldman for joining us, and I'll let you provide some just high-level context on the university finances and such around health that I think might provide some framing here.
Perfect. Thank you, President Cunningham, Chair Wheeler, and members of the board. The University of Minnesota has a unique responsibility to improve the health of all Minnesotans. That means thinking boldly about patient care, life-saving research, training and resources for physicians and other healthcare professionals. It means serving patients with conditions from the common to the complex. And it means investing in our medical school and health science programs where 70% of the state's physicians and healthcare professionals train. The University of Minnesota Medical School is ranked 11th among public medical schools and 25th in the country in terms of NIH funding. This recognition makes clinical trials and new therapies more rapidly available here in Minnesota. It also makes it easier to recruit and retain top clinicians. Minnesota is fortunate to be one of a few academic medical centers that also has strong schools of nursing, pharmacy, dentistry, and veterinary medicine. Our students learn from each other, and that interdisciplinary collaboration makes them stronger practitioners. Today, the University of Minnesota is nationally renowned for treating clinically ill patients using innovative treatments such as fetal surgery, deep brain stimulation transplantation, and ECMO, a life-saving machine that takes over the heart and lung functions when a patient's organs need time to heal. The medical school and our health science schools are an incredible public asset for Minnesota. These are assets that we don't just want to protect now, but we also need to ensure Minnesotans across the state will have access to this life-saving research and care for generations to come. Since President Cunningham arrived at the university last summer, she has had countless people share their stories of how Minnesota and the University of Minnesota's healthcare teams have helped them or family members or a friend or a neighbor beat the odds. These stories remind us that the way we live out our mission every day. And all of them depend on the continued financial and operational strength of the medical school and the health science programs here at the University of Minnesota. When you look at the university's annual budget revenue, which this year is about $5.1 billion, just over 30% of it comes from the medical school and our health science programs. And later today, the full board will hear the presentation on the university's contribution to the economic vitality of the state of Minnesota. Nearly $2.6 billion is generated by the university's health enterprise, the medical school, and our health science programs annually. Without a strong medical school and health science programs, the University of Minnesota will be weaker, and the state of Minnesota will be less healthy. We will be less prepared to address the critical shortages in our healthcare workforce and less prepared as a state to address our biggest healthcare challenges.
Thank you, VP Goldman. Over the past several weeks, we've been fortunate, and I've been very fortunate, to get to spend time with our strategic facilitator, Lois Quam. Facilitator Quam was appointed by the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, to advance discussions between the University of Minnesota, Fairview Health Services, and Essentia Health. Lois Quam's professional background illustrates a deep commitment to health and public service. We salute her for her commitment to the health of Minnesotans and to this process. We believe the Attorney General's and Facilitator Quam's involvement will be instrumental in helping the University of Minnesota achieve a solution that best meets Minnesota's most pressing healthcare challenges. I am pleased to welcome Facilitator Quam to share an overview of her charge from Attorney General Ellison and update the board on her work. Facilitator Quam, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, President Cunningham, and members of the Board of Regents Healthcare Committee. Thank you very much for your invitation for me to appear before you today. President Cunningham, I want to thank you for your leadership and collaboration on this important work for the University of Minnesota. I feel that it's Minnesota's good fortune to have at this moment a leader with your energy, commitment, and healthcare knowledge as we address these vital matters that shape the health and prosperity of our state in the years to come. And Dean Toller, thank you for your leadership and the way you keep the perspective of the faculty and the patients front and center in everything we do. Mm-hmm. As the president indicated, I've been designated by Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison in consultation with the University of Minnesota, Fairview, and Essentia as strategic facilitator. In this designation, I'm charged with overseeing discussions between these organizations. The objective of these discussions is to create a mutual path forward to support building and maintaining strong healthcare services across Minnesota. Today, I'd like to introduce myself, review the charge with outlines my assignment, and share with you how I'm approaching this work. Before I do so, I want to emphasize this. I understand how important it is to the university that these matters are addressed successfully. And I understand there is an urgency to provide clarity and confidence to all involved. So as I introduce myself to you, one of the most important things for you to know about me is that I'm from rural Minnesota. I grew up in Marshall, and my family spent our summer vacations on Otter Tail Lake, where Regent Hipsch, I think you'll be pleased to know, the special event was the trip to Purim to the Dairy Queen during those holidays. My father was a Lutheran pastor, and I saw in his congregation that the cost of an illness could be as damaging to a family as the illness itself, and that if you had something difficult and were able to come to the university or to Mayo, you were more likely to make it. So early in my life, by the time I had graduated to high school, I wanted to dedicate myself to this work of expanding healthcare access, and that is the work I've done most of my life. The week I had my first child, Governor Perpich appointed me to chair the Minnesota Healthcare Access Commission, whose work ultimately led to the creation of Minnesota Care. I then went on to work at the national level on expanding healthcare access. I also bring significant experience in healthcare finances and transactions to this work, including my 18 years at United Health Group, where I led the then $32 billion segment that worked with public health programs, Medicare and Medicaid, and served AARP members across the country. Of relevance to the strategic facilitator role, I bring diplomatic experience, having worked at the U.S. State Department and having led a global health organization which negotiated with governments and other leaders in Africa, South Asia, and the Middle East. Why did I agree to take on this assignment? Quite simply, I owe a debt to rural Minnesota for giving me a great start in life. And I'm deeply invested in sustainable long-term solutions, given that I have 4 grandchildren in Minnesota with more on the way. The Attorney General, with the agreement of the University, Fairview, and Essentia, gave me a specific charge as strategic facilitator. The charge reflects the imperative that the organizations, all three, move expeditiously to ensure stability for the physicians, healthcare workers, and patients who rely on these systems, and to develop solutions that provide lasting ability for Minnesotans to have the best access to healthcare in the decades to come. The charge includes establishing communication guidelines, setting milestones and deadlines for reaching decisions, facilitating discussions among the organizations, and providing other support that the parties agree is mutually beneficial. My charge emphasizes the importance of the University of Minnesota to the people of Minnesota, the groundbreaking research, education, and patient care. Minnesota relies on the graduates from the university for the vast majority of healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, dentists, and all the other professionals that serve Minnesota. Greg Goldman just gave you an excellent overview on this. And our very prosperity in Minnesota depends on the innovation from the University of Minnesota Medical School faculty. Minnesota is to healthcare what Silicon Valley is to technology. And that relies on the ability of this innovation from the University of Minnesota to be translated into services and Minnesota companies. My charge also emphasizes the importance of Fairview to the people of Minnesota. Fairview's community hospitals and clinics serve the metropolitan area and northern Minnesota. Fairview is nationally recognized for its community health programming and services. Through Ebenezer, Fairview is Minnesota's largest senior housing network, and Fairview is the fourth largest employer in Minnesota and part of a group of Minnesota hospitals that were the first nonprofit hospitals in the country to have a union. Minnesota patients with the greatest needs rely on the nationally leading services, whether that's an ECMO or cardiology or oncology, or I could go on with the different disciplines. They rely on these services for their health and life, and these services are delivered in collaboration between the university and Fairview. My charge also recognizes the importance of Essentia to the people of Minnesota. Essentia's network of hospitals and clinics are central to healthcare access across northern Minnesota. Essentia has demonstrated growth and innovation in its new hospital in downtown Duluth, its logistic facility in Cloquet, its high-quality rural health delivery system, and the pivotal services it provided and coordinated during the pandemic. I have deep respect and appreciation for the university, Fairview, and Essentia and their leaders. I began my work by getting to know each of the leaders, their teams, and board members. I have begun touring the facilities with each of the organizations. Each of the organizations has shared information, detailed analyses, and their perspectives with me. I have sought to see the world through the eyes of each organization. I have also met with leaders from the Minnesota Nurses Association and SEIU. As I move forward, I will be working with the university, Fairview, and Essentia to establish milestones, guidelines, and deadlines for our work together. I look forward to bringing representatives of each organization together with my facilitation. This work will build to an agreement that is acceptable to all parties, and most importantly, builds and maintains health services across Minnesota now and into the future. I recognize that there has been some turbulent water under this bridge, and we can't undo the past, but there is too much at stake to dwell on past disputes. And while these disagreements are real and some are longstanding, they certainly aren't the most difficult or entrenched issues that I have dealt with. Agreements can and will be reached. There are far more that unites than divides. I'm confident that these discussions between the University, Fairview, and Essentia will result in a successful outcome. The University, Fairview, and Essentia are united in a common healthcare mission for the people of Minnesota, and they have each served the state for a long time. Of the three organizations, Essentia is the youngest, having been founded as St. Mary's Hospital in Duluth in 1883. The University and Fairview predate that. So I want to close where I began, emphasizing the importance of this organization to Minnesotans in every part of the state. Next week, I will be in Marshall for my high school's annual honors event, and I will spend time with Marshall School Board Vice Chair Sarah Runche. Several years ago at the same honors event in Marshall, I saw Sarah's daughter Emma receive multiple awards in music, academics, and student leadership. Emma came to the University of Minnesota Medical Center when she was just 1 day old. There, as a fragile infant born in Marshall with a rare, poorly understood genetic condition, Emma and her parents met the University of Minnesota doctors who would save her. Now she's a junior in college, and Emma, like so many other talented rural Minnesotans, is poised to be a Minnesota leader who builds a future that benefits all of us, all because of the care she received here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today, and I'm happy to take any questions from you.
Great. I want to thank you very much, Facilitator Lois Quam. We're so grateful. I'll express gratitude, as did President Cunningham, for you stepping into this role. If any of you look at Lois Quam's resume, you would think it was 3 people, but it's actually just her. And your experience and wisdom and just enthusiasm towards this is really appreciated. Thank you very much. And as you said, it's so enormously important to the health and well-being of all Minnesotans and beyond, and the talented and compassionate people who provide their care. We want to do more for more Emmas in the world, so that's great. With that, let me turn to the committee and see what questions you have of Facilitator Quam.
I'll just,
Yeah, please.
I mean, my questions are like, how are you going to do this? But that isn't going to be part of your answer here today. I am very hopeful by your optimism and your commitment to bringing to fruition an agreement that will work for all 3 of the parties here. And so, I say go forth, may the force be with you. It's a difficult challenge, we understand that, but it's so important to the state of Minnesota, and I can't thank you enough for your willingness to participate and hopefully bring this home.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Jimmy. Regent Hips.
Thanks, Regent Wheeler. Pull my microphone over. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I really like your vision on the rural access.
Yeah.
And it's about giving folks access to medicine, but it's also about economic development.
Yeah.
Because companies won't develop unless there's healthcare in these rural communities.
Right.
And we make things in perm, which you're familiar with, like dog food and cheese and you name it, potato chips, things people want in their everyday life. And without a good access to rural healthcare, nobody will come and live there. And so I appreciate that, and I appreciate that as a focus for all of the University of Minnesota to educate all of our doctors and veterinarians and everything. So thank you for
Thank you so
this.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Regent Turner, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Wheeler. I felt comforted when you said about, kind of the past, the water under the bridge that's gone. And I felt very comforted when you said, this isn't something I can handle. I've seen worse. That was very comforting.
Yeah.
Because that has been a concern of mine of has too much water passed under the bridge that it's irresolvable. But so I feel comforted by your words and your experience.
Thank you very much.
Great. Student Representative Taiwo Ramo.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler, and sincerely thank you for coming. 2 weeks ago, Dean Toller was at the University of Minnesota Student Senate to give us an update about what is going on. And as a student who represents all students across System Campus, we do understand there's been some uncertainty, but hearing from you directly, like in your own words, provide clarity and confidence in all involved. So learners, students, medical students, those in the medical area, doctors, residents, fellows, and what have you, and patients, then everyone, at least, we can now have some clarity as to the path forward. And then one other thing I want to add is the fact that you have thoughtfully included, you've put a lot of thought into rural Minnesota. That shows how much, for me, for one, I'm a physician, and I always think about folks that are underserved. Where I come from, it's an underdeveloped country, and I've worked extensively in rural areas. And so putting all that into perspective, it's excellent, honestly. And I would like to say on behalf of myself and all students, and future learners anyways, I would like to say thank you for the work and thought you've put into this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. President Cunningham.
So thank you, and thank you for that wonderful presentation. And, I'm particularly appreciative, and I know, at the heart of the folks that are making our mission work are our physicians and our nurses and our staff. And I know, I understand, and Dean Toller understands, and I know you understand what this difficulty of this uncertain time has meant for them.
Yeah.
And appreciate and I've seen in action, these past weeks, how much and how quickly you are moving to dig into this and understanding how difficult that uncertainty is for them, and how important it is for them to understand, the rigor and the urgency that you're bringing to this to stabilize their lives and their careers for their patients. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Regent Mayron.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. You talked about the next steps and what you're envisioning. Can you give us a sense of timeline in terms of when you envision your work will be complete?
Yeah, I'd say two things with regard to that. It is clear to me that the sooner is better, given the impact of the uncertainty on the system. The second thing is I am going to work on the milestones and deadlines with the parties, and I haven't done that yet. So I can't yet give you what the deadlines or timelines are. I need to do that with the parties in order for it to be effective.
Regent Johnson.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, as others have said, your willingness to do this important work, and look forward to working with you. Obviously, the timeline will require that you do as you said. Can you give us an idea in some detail of what you see as the next steps or some sequential moving forward with this?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as I mentioned, the first thing I've sought to do is understand the perspectives of each of the organizations, and I have some pieces to complete on that. I have a really excellent tour coming up with Dean Toller and members of his team of the University of Minnesota. I have a two-day tour coming up with the Essentia facilities, given the travel distance. I want to go to their smallest hospital in Ada just to see that. And so there's some work I have to do to really complete that piece. But as I'm doing that, I'm now looking towards what are the milestones for this next process, and how do we bring together teams within the organizations, the leaders in the organizations to be able to do that. And as my process right now is starting to lay that out in my own mind. I do meet with the Attorney General and his team every other week just to keep them posted on this. But then I want to work that out with each of the parties so that I understand what their considerations are, and that as we complete that milestone and deadline process, it represents a common piece of work across all of the parties with my facilitation. And so that is where I'm beginning to switch my work as I've gotten a clearer sense of the lay of the land, so to speak.
Right, great. Thank you.
Great. Student Representative Arimo.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. One quick question.
Yeah.
So we're being hopeful, we're optimistic that everything will work out well.
Yes.
But in the event that one party is not still agreeing to whatever terms or whatever we hope to be the balance point for everyone, what would be the next step?
Well, the way I'm proceeding is that it is really important, certainly for the University in Fairview, for things to come forward in a way that works well. And I do think there's the basis for that. And I really appreciate the way Essentia has stepped forward in the interests of Minnesota, particularly rural Minnesota, and the accomplishments that they've had. So my focus right now, Representative, is really on moving that forward in that direction.
Go ahead, President Cunningham.
Yeah, and if I may say for Representative Aramo is, all of our focus right now is on this work together, and speculation as to beyond that is not a fruitful use of our time right now. Right now, we are all working day and night, with our facilitator and with our teams on how we can take this process and invest in this process so that this process can be successful. So speculation beyond that, I think, is not a good use of our time and energy right now. Yeah.
Yeah, Facilitator Kwame, one question about just the authority of the Attorney General in this process. I don't think you're in the position where you can say, thou shalt do this, right? But can you tell us what the authority is of this and you in this process?
Yes. So the Attorney General has quite broad authority, particularly given the legislation that was passed in 2023, to look at any new healthcare arrangements or transactions that affect the public interest. And the definition of public interest obviously includes the University of Minnesota, given its seminal role. And the university is stated explicitly in that legislation in that way. So he has authority there, and that's what led him to say, how could he be helpful in appointing a facilitator to work with the parties to come with options. Mm-hmm. He still, of course, reserves the right to review anything that comes out of this process. And I am meeting with him in his office regularly so they understand where we're headed, which I think is helpful in that regard. And that's where his authority comes into play.
Great, thank you for that. Are there additional questions? Just want to make some comments about things that I have heard as well. And, as you move forward with this process and with your work, there's some things about this, grand vision for improving the health of Minnesota that we've learned and heard about and are so excited about. But there's three questions that haven't been completely answered, and we want to make sure from what I've heard from others that those are in your bailiwick. One has to do with meaning, one has to do with math, and one has to do with common interests. So the first is, what's the value proposition for those that are served? In other words, what problem will it solve for our communities and the people within them? The second is, what's a business model that supports it? Because we want to do this for, as you mentioned in your comments, for the long haul. We want this to be a sustainable proposition going forward. And the third is, how might the new entity avoid unnecessary duplication of resources that exist in their community, so we can look at common interest collectively. And I think that Dean Toller and I would say those are themes we heard too at the Governor's Task Force for Academic Health. So those are some of the big questions. Obviously, there's a lot of due diligence that follows those large questions too, but those are things that I've heard are on people's minds. So wanted to make sure I highlighted those. Thank you. And then hopefully we'll find answers to those questions and many more. But again, I want to impress our deep, deep appreciation for you stepping into this role, one that's so important to everybody around and all the Emmas of the world. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. For our next second item, we're going to hear an overview of undergraduate health science programs across the university system, including external clinical training partnerships and internal academic pathways. As a reminder to people, this is actually the third part of a four-part series to engage the committee in discussions around how the university is serving the people of Minnesota through clinical training and academic program opportunities. So joining Vice President Toller to present this are Chancellor Lori Carroll from the Rochester campus, Chancellor Mary Holtzclaws from the Christian campus, Chancellor Janet Erickson from the Morris campus, and Connie Delaney, who I believe is on Zoom. I see you, Connie. Hello there. Dean of School of Nursing. Vice President Toller, would you like to begin?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chair Wheeler, Madam President, and members. As Regent Hibbs just said, I brought you an A team to the podium this morning, and please, see it as the example of who we are. And as all of us, in one way or another, become better through the organizations that we serve. That's exactly how I see this Board of Regents, as the leaders and the structure into which we are able to step in. I'm delighted to, of course, be joined by the chancellors and the deans today. As always, we do everything together as a team, better together, right? So this is, as Chair Wheeler, said, a next step in the series with which we are presenting to you the breadth and depth of the health sciences at the University of Minnesota. And this morning, we will focus on the undergraduate degrees. I will repeat, because it's so important, we are unique. It's a good thing to be different and better in the market of ideas and people and money, for that matter. And that's where we are today. Next slide, please. This map does show you where we are. So we obviously have the 5 campuses, and if I were to add to this map the little dots for every training site, that being nursing, public health, that being any of your campuses, and all the community, the rural included, it would be covered with dots. We call it measles map, because that's what it looks like, and it shows the variety, but also it signals the connections that are made, earned, and maintained among all of these places, and the common shared purpose of having efficient, equitable, patient-centered healthcare is, our ultimate goal. Regent Turner and others know well that 80% of Americans are unhappy with their healthcare. That's an open door. There's something we can do about it. Next slide, please. The chancellors and the deans will go through a number of the programs. I will focus on the first one as the only undergraduate degree that we have in the medical school. It's a bachelor's in science in mortuary science. It started 1908. It has a great tradition, as it was the first ever program of this kind connected to the State University. And we have a tremendous number of alumni, the funeral directors in these small cities where I now go quite often, they are the leaders of the community. So the alumni network is extremely strong and extremely loyal and extremely efficient. And as Chancellor Mary Holtz-Colson will continue on this, we have a nice collaboration, with Crookston, that we again help students to enter this glorious path to healthcare and education in it, and the rate of placement in this is 96%. You cannot do much better than that. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Chancellor Clausen.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler and members of the committee. Thank you, Dr. Toller. As you can see on this slide here, we have a number of areas that support the healthcare industry. I'm not going to go into detail on each of them, but I do want to highlight several that are there, and a little more detail about each one of them is found in your docket. But the first one that I want to highlight, which actually is a pre-program, and you see that it's the placement rate for veterinary school, and it's a program called VetFast. And that program is really an early admissions decision program for students that are interested in the food animal veterinary science program. So what it does is it provides early assurance of admissions to the DVM program when students are freshmen or sophomore undergraduates. And then once they're accepted into the VetFast program, all they have to do is successfully, it's not all, but what they have to do is successfully complete their prerequisites and their undergraduate coursework. So this really helps both the state of Minnesota and nationwide address the shortage of food animal veterinarians. Every year we have somewhere between 2 to 4 students who are part of the VetFast program. It also takes some of the pressure away from them because they know that they have already been accepted into veterinary school as undergraduates, and so then can focus focus on getting the background education that they need. Another one that I want to highlight is our healthcare management online program. And this serves many students in Minnesota, but also students throughout the United States. It's an online program. And many of these students are already working in healthcare. Oftentimes they'll be in nursing or other areas, but see that they want to be more involved in the administration of healthcare. Of this program right now, about 2/3 of our students are from Minnesota, and the average age is 31 years of age. So you see that individuals are in the industry and then wanting to either complete a Bachelor's of Science degree or, as I said, receive more information on administration. Firms where our graduates are employed there really are the whole gamut of the healthcare industry. I share our largest employer is Mayo Clinic, Sanford Health, Allina Health, Fairview Health, All True Health Systems, and Centricare are some examples of where our students, when they graduate, go to work there. And because this is a very unique program, I included in the docket some more information for you to find out specifics on that. And then the last one that I want to talk about is a pre-mortuary science program, which Dr. Toller just highlighted for you. That program is relatively new, and we're in our second year. It's a 2+2 program where the first 2 years are spent either online or on the Crookston campus. Students take primarily their prerequisites in business, as well as the biological sciences, chemistry, and other areas of the science classes where they really receive a very good hands-on program, and then transfer here to the Twin Cities to complete their Bachelor's of Science in Mortuary Science. So now I'd like to turn it over to Chancellor from Duluth.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. So at the University of Minnesota Duluth, we too have a lot of those foundational degree pathways that lead to advanced degrees in healthcare. And some of those have really strong partnerships that have already been established with the programs connected to the Twin Cities campus. And that includes early admissions into the master's degree in nursing program that we've done in partnership with the School of Nursing, as well as early admission through the School of Pharmacy into the PharmD program offered right on the Duluth campus itself. We've also worked really closely with the medical school on the Duluth campus, and we've created a joint healthcare career center that allows for clear career pathway conversations for all undergraduate degree programs into some of those advanced degree areas. But beyond some of those foundational pathways, we also look broadly at healthcare needs, particularly in the rural communities, the tribal communities, as well as in the Duluth region. We've worked really closely with our Bureau for Economic Development right in the Leibowitz School of Business, and Monica Haynes produces a report that looks at that market needs around healthcare. And through that, we're able to look at what are those great and highest growth need areas in healthcare. And we provide some of those undergraduate pathways as well as those master degree pathways to help with that, including speech and language pathologists, social workers, including the training that we do in Duluth for tribal child welfare care for the entire state of Minnesota. Counselors, also a high growth need area. HR specialists, as well as healthcare business management. All of those are degree pathways that really help support the work that we're doing, as well as public health and the opportunity to reach out into our communities to look at different ways and practices that we can think about health more broadly. And finally, one of the pieces that I mentioned yesterday is a partnership that intersegmental partnership we've done in the city of Duluth with our K-12 public school system, as well as Lake Superior Community College and St. Scholastica College, to create healthcare pathways that we start reaching out already as early as middle school and let them know all of the educational opportunities that exist right in the city of Duluth, where you can go from kindergarten to MD in the same city and really provide some of those healthcare pathways. So some of that is the work that we are doing. I'd now like to pass it on to my colleague and hear more about what Morris has.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler, members of the board. At the University of Minnesota Morris, our bachelor's programs in biology, chemistry, biochemistry, and psychology are common majors for pre-health students. And right now, psychology and biology are the most popular majors on campus. We like to think that students coming out of a liberal arts education who are very good at critical thinking and communication make better doctors and nurses, and so we stress that in the education. Our pre-health faculty advisors work with all pre-health students, including pre-med, pre-PA, pre-dentistry, pre-public health, to choose their courses and develop their skills and competencies to succeed in their chosen career path. We emphasize undergraduate research, and students can be part of labs, faculty labs as early as their first year. And our partnerships in the community with Stevens County Ambulance Service and Stevens Community Medical Center are important in setting students up with patient care experience through work opportunities. The Morris campus offers the same pathway to the university's Master's in Nursing program, just as Crookston and Duluth do, and this pathway is commonly pursued by biology and psychology majors. We also have the Early Assurance pathway to the university's PharmD program and the Veterinary Food Animal Scholars Track, VetFast, through a partnership with the College of Veterinary Medicine. This is the first year we are offering an already popular pathway that includes an internship and fully prepares students to take the Minnesota exam to become licensed alcohol and drug counselors. The first graduates of that program are already being hired, even though commencement is not until Saturday. 2 new early assurance pathways have just been added this year as well at Morris, one to the university's Doctor of Physical Therapy program and one to the Occupational Therapy Doctorate program. And for all of these programs, and all of our majors, Morris students have the option, with a complete sample plan they can follow, to complete their bachelor's degree in 3 years, allowing them an average savings of $20,000 on their undergraduate education. And with that, I will pass this to Lori Carroll.
Chair Wheeler, Regents, in just a few months ago, you heard a full presentation from the Health Sciences campus of the University of Minnesota in Rochester. Here, I just want to refresh your memories a little bit that our 2 core programs are described on the slide. And the first one is a highly flexible degree where students start with a foundation and then make choices along the way. And those choices are supported by success coaches and required coursework that guides career exploration and personal reflection. The senior year capstone creates that flexibility for so many paths from one core degree. It's creative, it's flexible, and it's serving as a talent pipeline into all of the professional schools here on the Twin Cities campus and also in Duluth. The Health Professions program is a partnership with Mayo Clinic School of Health Sciences. So far, 100% of those graduates have been employed in their fields. In addition, we have many of the pre-health pathways that you've seen. We have organized them under a format of get forward faster, meaning that senior year is leveraged so that the overall academic journey is shorter. It's not only what we do in Rochester, but also how we do it, using research-based practice to fuel student success. And we, with Duluth, have recently been named an Opportunity College by Carnegie, given the results that our students are not only making a difference in the world, but also making a living. We have a long-standing partnership with the School of Nursing, and to tell you more about that and other programs, I'll turn it now to my colleague, Dean Connie Delaney.
Thank you, Chancellor Carroll and Chair Wheeler and members of the board. I will focus on the Twin Cities undergraduate programs. We have a number of those programs that prepare students to immediately enter the healthcare workforce or prepare them to further graduate and professional education. I'm going to specifically focus on 2 programs through our School of Nursing and our dental school. If we go to the next slide. The specific focus in the Twin Cities at the undergrad level in nursing is the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And as you have heard, this is delivered on both the Twin City and the Rochester campuses. Rochester has a specifically located cohort that is not only increasing in size this fall from 48 to 72, that increase will occur over at least the next 3 years. It is of import that 100% of our 2024 graduate respondents were employed in the field directly related to their BSN. What is so empowering about this program is it's an early assurance program. It is also of import that all major Minnesota health systems employ our students, including Allina, Essentia, mHealth Fairview, Mayo, and Regents as our top employers. The program is currently ranked 19th in the country by U.S. News and World Report. And of note, 80% of the grads of the BSN program remain in Minnesota. I'd like to also highlight, as we go to our next slide, the undergrad programs in dentistry. The Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene is the only baccalaureate program affiliated with the School of Dentistry here in Minnesota. It is an accelerated program. It enables students to earn their Bachelor of Science degree in 3 years, rather than the traditional 4. These dental hygiene students train alongside dental and dental therapy students in a team-based model. The students in programs work in a comprehensive care group clinic to deliver care to patients as a dental team. And the graduates with this Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene are trained to practice not only in dental offices, but also work in school programs, state facilities, in private practice as managers, or as patient advocates. The degree program also opens the door to advanced education, specifically advanced education such as the Master's in Dental Hygiene or Public Health that can prepare these students for leadership positions, not only in healthcare, but also industry and research. And as you see here, the alumni make up 20% of Minnesota's dental hygienists, and we currently educate 49% of the dental hygiene educators. A particular note is the 100% placement of class of 2024. With that, I would like to, on behalf of my co-presenters, thank you for your time and attention, and we also look forward to answering any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. I'll turn to President Cunningham first.
Yeah, first of all, with many thanks to the senior leaders and deans here who are making this work happen. Just a couple of high notes, to point out, this tremendous presentation of what we're doing here for the state and for health. It is not the same everywhere. This is something that really differentiates us here in Minnesota. We are, with our land grant mission, you can see there's a lot of discussion about the value of higher education now. We are meeting the moment for what the needs are of the state. We are training people. Those people are going on to get jobs and be great citizens in the state. And so in the conversation around higher education more broadly, I really want people to think about this conversation and think about what it means actually to be training the workforce at a high quality place, and how we are the state of health. And how, as we have, been thinking about strategic planning, health remains one of the things that we are doing across our system in a way that is incredibly important. So, with much thanks, the placement rates are phenomenal. And the fact that we do this at a public school cost to our students, meeting many low resource students along the way who are then finding jobs in fields where Minnesota desperately needs them, as does the country, is really just tremendous. So thank you all to what you're doing across the campuses. And I haven't seen it put together in this way before, and it's even more exciting when you see it and you see the outcomes. So thank you.
That's fabulous. Thank you, President Cunningham. Regent Turner.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. First of all, I always get choked up when you all come and tell me how many professionals you guys are training and getting out there in the world, because I tell you what, there's not a month that doesn't go by that people of my generation or even younger are saying, oh, we're retiring, and it doesn't matter where you go. And my concern is it'll come to a point where people like my age maybe won't be able to retire because there's just not enough workforce, okay? So I'm always thrilled. What my question, though, is, it bears bringing up this. What are some of the barriers to us being able to train more? First of all, do you get enough applicants every year? I know they do in nursing. I mean, they have more applicants, and in the vet school, they get more applicants than what they can train. What are some of the barriers? Lack of educators, lack of clinical spots, and I know all of it needs money, but just to make the world aware of some of the barriers to being able to train even more healthcare professionals, because I think the need is going to grow faster than what we can churn out. And happy Nurses Week, Dean Delaney.
No, go for it. And Connie, Dean Delaney, if you want to, you probably know more hands-on. What are some of those barriers as you're trying to train nurses?
Thank you very much, Chancellor. I would like to comment and thank you, Regent Turner, for your acknowledgement of Nurses Week and also the situation that basically all of our health related professions are in. As you've seen throughout these presentations, we are very integrated into the fabric of the variety of health systems and clinical sites in the state of Minnesota. Despite that, in nursing, without a doubt, the number one barrier in being able to respond to, as you noted, Regent Turner, the phenomenal applicant pool that we have is availability of clinical sites. And I say that recognizing the stress that our healthcare systems are under as well. Our relationships are robust. The lack of even more clinical sites is our number one barrier. I'll make one second comment, and that is we have the capacity via applicants pool for our nursing program for faculty. We have the applicant pool, and there again, it's a resource related issue, but the clinical sites are the number one barrier.
And I would add one other piece, if I may. So Chair Wheeler and Regent Turner, one of the other pieces that I think Rochester is really serving as a model for us to think about is how do we do the undergraduate pathway experience? Yeah. And some of those traditional, what have been labeled gateway courses that prevent students from passing through. We have a faculty member on our campus who teaches biochem and has received a grant to look at how do you redesign biochem in a way that supports students' pathways through that instead of creating the gate that it often creates. And I think a lot of the great discovery that is happening in Rochester about how to deliver that undergraduate curriculum in a way that supports more students going through and being able to accomplish some of their undergraduate degree goals so that they can move on into the advanced degree goals is going to be a really important factor that we can be doing across the University of Minnesota. Is that fair, Chancellor Carroll?
Absolutely, and thank you, Chair Wheeler and Regent Turner. Indeed, the education itself needs our attention. And so what is being referenced is a multidisciplinary approach to student success, where we know that there are courses that have traditionally been barriers and have been labeled with the obnoxious term weed out. It is on us as educators to change the way we educate. Any student we admit, we commit to, that we will use evidence-based practices in their education and in their development outside of the class in order to support their success. And often that does become curricular. What is the order in which we teach the topic so that they can be applied? That takes a multidisciplinary team, and UMR faculty have been extraordinary in that regard. So academic barriers, when there is high potential, is our responsibility. I would add that the primary barrier for students at the Rochester campus is a financial barrier. So the number one reason that students leave is not academic failure, but rather financial need.
Thank you.
Great. President Cunningham.
And I would also remind folks that this group put together an amazing health sciences strategic plan that also would have trained many more healthcare providers across the state of Minnesota that we did not receive. We are unlikely to receive state budget funding for this year. But I think as we move forward, we need to continue to look at that plan and what would need to be done and how to finance and how to think about how a plan such as that really could produce more healthcare providers across the board for the state.
Yeah, thank you, President Cunningham, for recognizing that plan, which all of you participated in, was really well laid out, well done, with objective outcomes that help Minnesotans. So good reminder there. Student Representative Arimo.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. And I would like to appreciate you. In words of Dr. Toller, the A team. So great job, A team. All right. Across System Campus, it was thrilling, honestly, to see some of those statistics and see how much you've been able to accomplish. I would want to specifically talk about Morris Campus. Congratulations that you can now have a program that has a bachelor's in 3 years. That's impressive. And considering the limitations of workforce nursing, you took it out of me anyways by talking about that. I was in the Bay Area and I learned there is this kind of competition across universities. I think about 18 universities in California that does the pharmacy program. And right now, instead of 4 years, it's now 3 years. So it's actually competition. So I was chatting with many of their deans, and they were like, it's actually competition. So we're trying to attract people who are considering their age and thought they just want to hand their degree on time. And so is it something we can, I don't know, but is it something we're thinking about? Maybe we can adopt something like that. Perhaps we can attract more folks and we can have a quick turnover of nurses or professionals into the workforce.
Yes, so Chair Wheeler and Student Representative, part of what we're developing in Duluth with the pharmacy school in Duluth is that at the end of your junior year, you would actually start in the PharmD program and you would complete then your bachelor's degree as part of that first year in the PharmD, so that we would find that accelerated pathway to get into that program. And so just recently I had a conversation with the faculty there to look at how we can make that happen in a much more seamless way. So those creative ideas, I think, are ways that we can increase the number of individuals that go into those pharmacy programs.
And Chair Wheeler, Student Representative, I would second that. I mean, all of the 3-year plans that we have will work with our pathway programs. And so a student who is admitted into the PharmD program from the start can go through it in 3 years if that's what they want to do and go right on in. So they will complete everything earlier. What they do at the graduate level is out of my control in terms of speed, but we can get them on that path more quickly if that's what they want to do.
Chair Wheeler and Student Representative, may I also add that in later you'll be hearing from the System Optimization Working Group with some recommendations that will further enhance these pathways and the cooperation and collaboration across the professional and graduate schools with the undergraduate programs, particularly in health. So you'll hear more about that. The College in 3 Exchange, which is now a nonprofit that began at the Rochester campus and then quickly added the Morris campus, and others are contributing new ideas for these 3-year programs, now has over 50 campuses nationwide who are looking at well-designed, evidence-based approaches to an accelerated pathway, particularly in areas of dire workforce need like we have in healthcare.
Great.
And Chair Wheeler, if I might make a comment.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, my hand raising function is not functioning. But you have heard from all of the chancellors the pathway from baccalaureate graduates to the professional nursing, master's degree in nursing. That's a professional master's. That is a 16-month program. So for these persons that complete in our campuses, and be reassured when those students come into that program, we're contributing to the workforce every 16 months. And that is a program that we are very committed to growing.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Delaney. Regent Hipsch.
Thank you, Chair Wheeler. I think we should call out our student representative. I think he's a product of the system. And what are you getting? 3 degrees, 2 PhDs, and a master's or something in the next 2 weeks?
That Regent Hipsch.
So I think that's what hasn't been said is our new medical school in St. Cloud is going to be a huge home run, I think.
Yeah.
And the second thing is this Vet Fast program You know, it started, I don't know how many years ago, 5, 6 years ago, whatever, but now it's really getting legs, and I think I counted 17 students in the program. That is a game changer for rural Minnesota. You guys can't understand how great that's going to be when these kids get in working in the community, because there's a huge shortage of food veterinarians in the state. And so, I mean, it starts small and, you know, it keeps growing. And if we can stay even at these levels, that's going to solve the problem. So thank you for helping solve that problem. So.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah.
Regent Johnson.
Just a couple questions, and I maybe direct this first at Chancellor Carroll. In terms of a student being able to afford this, I know, can you say a little bit about like paid internships, guaranteed employment after graduation for those who aren't going directly into graduate school, or any other things like that that are kind of innovative, trying to make it more affordable for people?
Yes, absolutely, Chair Wheeler and Regent Johnson. We have many such endeavors in progress, moving toward them. College in 3 is itself a cost saver and, you know, a predictor of better outcomes if we use the evidence-based design. So there's that, in addition to getting the career launch to happen sooner. The overall cost of the degree for all of the Get Forward Faster, 3+2, 4+, all of those, the cost is diminished because of the curricular design and the cooperation. There's that. We have also been working to increase our paid internships, and we have many work-based learning experiences. Nearly all of our students have a deep learning experience at Mayo Clinic while they are undergraduates, and yet it is not the majority of those that are paid internships, though that has been on the increase, particularly when we target the internship choice in an area of high need. So most recently, that is a research coordinator role and internships, training of the supervisors, as we heard about yesterday in the career presentation, and that targeted kind of approach can get an increase in the paid internships. I also want to mention work study and cooperative ventures around that are on all of our campuses as a real antidote to the challenge of finance. We have many kinds of programs to support students, and we are pursuing an early assurance employment program that would address some very specific targeted workforce needs with scholarship support from a corporate partner. So more to come on that.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully it'll be a model.
Yeah.
Great. Terrific. Are there any other questions for the group? I will just say that I think we're going to be intensely interested in some of the system optimization work that you talked about. How do we, you know, you've got such incredible programs. How do we make sure we smooth these and have seamless transitions and all of that? The student experience and affordability. And I'd say the overall theme that you're hearing about educational innovation and that we have a gold mine. This is part of what this A-team does. And, you know, that is certainly a theme of great interest too. So we really appreciate you and all you brought to this world and all you bring to the care and healing of so many. So thank you very much. Yeah. All right. There being no additional business before this committee, I believe we stand adjourned early like Regent Hibbs does, as Finance Committee. I'm trying to follow your lead. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.